Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. We are going to dive deep into a topic that is just as visually mesmerizing as it is operationally complex. We're looking at exactly what it truly takes to install and, more importantly, maintain a thriving restaurant aquarium. It's an incredible concept, but as we're going to see, pulling it off requires some serious, careful thought.
Picture this. You're sitting in a gorgeous dining room, gazing into this tranquil, beautifully lit aquatic centerpiece. It's the absolute dream, right? It sets the perfect mood. But that beautiful dream brings up a pretty provocative question. What happens when things go wrong? Let's take a look at what actually turns a stunning centerpiece into a very expensive nightmare.
You see, it really comes down to a core conflict. It's like an iceberg. On the surface, you have this beautiful guest experience, the memorable atmosphere, the brand storytelling that turns a meal into a full-on experience. But lurking right below that surface is a massive operational reality. We're talking about very real risks to fish health, crucial guest safety concerns, and honestly, the absolute worst-case scenario for any business, expensive downtime.
So let's get right into Section 1, Defining Your Aquarium's Purpose. This is all about setting the baseline for operations.
To avoid those expensive nightmares, we really have to start at the very beginning. Avoiding major risks starts in the early planning phase, where you have to define exactly what role this tank is going to play in your specific space. When setting your goals, you essentially have three main paths to choose from. You could go with a brand storytelling centerpiece, a simple, low-maintenance display, or a massive, complex biotope-style feature. And the reason this matters so much is that your answer directly dictates everything else down the line: your tank size, filtration capacity, lighting intensity, and critically, your staffing needs.
Here is the absolute golden rule. If you want predictable, successful operations, you absolutely must match the tank's design to the reality of your staff's available time. Look, I get it. It is incredibly tempting to just go for maximum visual impact, the biggest, most complex tank possible. But if your team doesn't actually have the hours in the day to maintain it, well, that visual impact will very quickly turn into an algae-filled eyesore. Moving right along to Section 2, Structural Integrity and Safety. Let's talk about the invisible infrastructure.
Now that we know what kind of tank we're going for, we have to face the physical realities of installing a massive water feature. Aquariums take a massive physical toll on a building. Because they are incredibly heavy when fully filled, you absolutely must verify dynamic floor loads with structural professionals. You also need to plan for safe electrical routing, and that means ground fault protection and moisture-resistant outlets. Because, as we all know, water and electricity are a pretty dangerous mix. You'll also need secure plumbing to prevent leaks and a totally clear maintenance access path so your team can actually, get to the equipment. And hey, let's not forget the human element here. Guest interaction is inevitable in a bustling restaurant. Even if you designate a tank as strictly view-only, you still require physical barriers or some kind of clever protective design elements. You've got to play a little defense. You're protecting the glass from accidental impacts from moving chairs or passing guests, and at the same time, you're protecting the dining guests themselves from unexpected water splashes.
All right, Section 3, Water Quality and Species Fit, the Biological Realities.
We've covered the physical structure, so let's shift gears to the biological side of things. I want to slow the pace down here just a bit, because this is where we really get into the delicate science of keeping a living, breathing ecosystem thriving in the middle of all that restaurant chaos. Let's start with a foundational concept: biological load. Simply put, this refers to the amount and type of fish in the tank. And this isn't just about how many fish look pretty together. This biological load must be meticulously matched to your filtration system's capacity. Your water clarity and the absolute well-being of your fish depend entirely on getting this delicate balancing act right. When you ignore that balance, well, the results are pretty disastrous. Proper stocking gives you stable water parameters and healthy fish. But overstocking, which, by the way, is an incredibly common mistake made by owners who just want the tank to look instantly full, that triggers major systemic failures. We're talking massive algae blooms, dangerously unstable water, and recurring, really expensive fish health problems.
To maintain that proper balance, you need strict, realistic schedules. For starters, this means matching your tank lighting to your actual restaurant operating hours. You also need realistic feeding schedules. But most importantly, you need designated staff whose specific job is testing the water, and they need clearly defined thresholds for exactly when and how to take corrective action if those parameters start to slip.
Okay, let's look at Section 4, Maintenance Workflow and Costs. This is the daily grind.
Let's ramp the energy back up because we really need to discuss the true, ongoing financial and labor costs of aquarium ownership. The reality is, the work never stops once the water goes in. It creates a mandatory, ongoing labor loop. Step 1. Routine filter checks and equipment inspections. Step 2. Constant glass cleaning and waste management. Step 3. Meticulous water change planning. This cycle literally never stops. Even the most perfectly designed restaurant aquariums require this constant, dedicated attention, whether from your own staff or an outside service.
And because of that continuous loop, you have to budget realistically for ongoing consumables. You are constantly going to need replacement filter media, freshwater test kits, and new cleaning tools. On top of that, you absolutely have to build contingency time into your labor budget for those inevitable, unexpected issues. Things like equipment wear and tear or sudden algae outbreaks.
Now, one really great way to minimize that daily operational complexity and keep your costs down is by selecting hardy, compatible fish species that don't require highly specialized care or frequent restocking. And it's totally vital to source them through a reliable, experienced, local supply chain. That way you actually have the support you need exactly when you need it.
Which brings us to Section 5, Permits and Vendor Support, ensuring long-term success.
Navigating the biology and the daily maintenance is one thing, but ensuring your investment is legally compliant is what actually makes it pay off in the long run. Depending on your location, your compliance checklist might require permits for electrical work, specific plumbing connections, or even building modifications. And here's a huge one. Local health and safety standards can heavily dictate exactly where you're even allowed to place a tank, especially if it's anywhere near food prep areas. You've got to clear these bureaucratic hurdles early on to prevent massive, costly delays after construction has already started.
Finally, when it comes to vendor support, you really need to choose a partner who provides far more than just the initial build. You need proper equipment commissioning, you need fully documented operating procedures left behind for your staff, and most importantly, you need a clear, reliable escalation path for troubleshooting when things inevitably go sideways at, say, 9 p.m. on a busy Friday night.
I want to highlight this powerful quote directly from our source material. The most attractive aquarium is only as good as its long-term reliability. Honestly, I think that perfectly distills everything we've talked about today. Pure visual aesthetics mean absolutely nothing if the tank is constantly breaking down, threatening the health of the fish, or just draining your operational budget dry. At the end of the day, durability always outranks aesthetics.
So we've seen the structural demands, the delicate biology, the relentless daily maintenance, and the strict compliance required. The ultimate question you really have to ask yourself before signing off on those blueprints is this: is your restaurant truly ready to support a living ecosystem? Think very carefully about the commitment required before you start building. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you make the most informed decision possible for your space.